All right, so it's day 18 of walking the Hexatetraglyph. I'm Colin, and this little oracle board, divination board sitting in front of me is what I call the Hexatetraglyph. We're on a 27-day journey across this thing. Each one of these pathways I look at like a contemplative walking path. We move one position per day, and each day we use astrology to come up with a topic for the day, a theme or a question. And then we draw 3 tarot cards in order to get some insight into that topic. Until the 27th day. On the 27th day, we've ran out of tarot cards. We've moved 26 positions, drawing 3 cards each day. 26 times 3 is 78, and that's how many cards are in the deck. So we've exhausted the deck by the final position. And you'll notice that there's 64 hexagrams on the board. Those 64 hexagrams come from the I Ching, and they each represent an endpoint. So you follow the branching pathway until you reach an endpoint, and then you have a hexagram from the I Ching. You can consult the oracle at that point. So it's like a pilgrimage or a sacred journey. If you're interested in learning more, I recommend going back and watching the first video in this series, and you can kind of follow along. I'm attempting to do a good job of documenting my own personal experiment with this. It's like a case study for people to be able to come back and see how it works and what I went through, how it affected me. I'm not disclosing too much of my personal life, but you can see my real reactions. I keep some of my personal details, private, but I share as much as I can, and I show you my general way of thinking, hoping that it can help other people, and also just showing the process as a reference so that people can get ideas and also just see that the system works, and it's a helpful tool if you want to go through a rite of passage. I don't think we really have a good rite of passage for middle-aged people like me. I'm in my mid-40s, and I can't really think of what people my age do to cross over from their younger self to their older self. And I felt I need something to help me mature and to change. I'm not here to beat myself up, but I'm here to face the shadow, the reality of my life up to this point. And I'm looking at this as an opportunity for transformation. And I came into it with goals. They're there. This is not about having no hope, but I am facing very difficult topics every day. It's not all happiness. I have a crystal here, but I'm not one of those people that's all just positivity and shining light all the time. I also have my cube of Saturn right next to it, okay? So with that said, we're going to go ahead and draw 2 planets and choose one to work with for the day. So I reach into this little bowl with some planet tokens in it, and I draw 2 out. So today I have the sun and the moon. Boy, I really haven't drawn Saturn very often, For some reason, I'm not I was wondering if maybe today I would draw Saturn, because I just haven't worked with it very often, but nope. I guess it's a one and done thing. Just kind of like how Saturn doesn't come around very often. So let's see, the sun will go in the yang position and the moon in the yin. So we're on R today, down here in this quadrant. We've moved along pathway 1 down, and then pathway 2 left. That's a yin movement and another yin movement. So our 2 bottom lines of our hexagram will be yin and then yin. Line 1 and 2 will both be yin. So we're on the 3rd pathway, and the sun is going to go on the upper position R, and the moon will go in the lower position R. In the yin position and the yang position. The moon is in Libra, the sun is in Virgo. And I want to work with the sun again, the sun in Virgo again. We've done that before, but I really like how it kind of opens up an opportunity to refine what we were talking about the day before. And I could really use that right now, actually. I just want to go off of that word because Virgo has to do with refining and implementing, you know. I think of it as good at teaching about how to systematize something. Get in there and do the work and do the thing that needs to be done to help heal. And look at those the minutiae, the fine details. And with the sun, we're going to really just shine a light right on these things. And so what's going through my mind right now is a couple of these cards from yesterday. Not so much the Four of Pentacles. I think I'm totally lost on that one right now, honestly. Maybe I can come back to it another time when the process is over. I'm not totally lost, but it's not resonating. These ones really were telling me a story. You know, I left many organizations and structure in my life. Like these people who are on their boat and they're going somewhere else. So I've left something like the Hierophant before. But then I was thinking about how do I go back and recover something like that? You know, it doesn't have to be as structured and organized as some of the things I belonged to in the past. Big religious organizations and the military and such. It doesn't need to be like that. But some form of community and tradition. I've just kind of closed myself off one little piece at a time until I started to realize the reason I do this is because it's an attitude that I have. But over the years, it added up until I became more and more isolated. And it's the attitude. It's the cynical worldview. It turned around and made me kind of one of those Scrooge characters. You know, Scrooge is sitting there with all of his money, but nobody to share it with. You know, now I don't have the money like Scrooge, but I get the feeling though, you know, of all of a sudden waking up one day and having the Ghost of Christmas Past visit and go, "Hey, dummy, look what you've done. You shut your whole world off and you're just sitting here being a curmudgeon." And that is a big part of why I wanted to create a system that was like kind of a rite of passage. Because I need some help to guide me to becoming more involved in community. I think many of us are going through this now. It's our phones. It's being shut in our cars all the time. You know, it's the digital age. And it's the politics. You know, I think if I lived in a place where everybody was out on the street walking around and you just feel like you're part of community because of that, it would probably be good for me. You know, but in this world where I walk around with my AirPods on in the grocery store, in the gym, in my car, and having stepped away from a lot of the organizations and such, it makes it even more difficult for me to interact. Plus, I'm just naturally introverted. So, yeah, it's multi-layered. And Virgo with the sun, it's some energy that I need. Let's explore how I can take some of those first steps. Let's really explore how I can start to go outside of my comfort zone and get involved with people and tradition. I'm not saying I'm going to go join the Catholic Church just because I got the Hierophant. It's not like that. But see, I'm confused. I don't know exactly what it is. So I would like to get a little bit more into the detail of what were those cards telling me when they're saying, well, okay, you left all of that tradition and community and those structures and that hierarchy and that organization. But now how do you come back to and revive what's still good there? How do you still explore some of that? Now, in the past, I've put words up and we stop and everyone can write in their journals, but I've done enough of this. I think we kind of know what's going on now. So if you'd like to take a minute, pause, and write down something in your journal that you'd like to talk about today, go ahead. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just draw these 3 cards and see if we can get a story out of these. All right, so we have the 2 of Cups, the Queen of Swords, and the 6 of Wands. The 2 of Cups, that is Venus and Cancer. That's one of my favorite cards, actually. I really like that one. My wife keeps that card sitting by her bed. She has it displayed. I think because she knows I like it so much. Because the Cancer being the defensive, kind of difficult. I mean, just imagine trying to make friends with a crab, of all the things that you want to try to make friends with, right? But there's Venus sharing. And the thing is the crab is emotion. The Cancer is emotion. It's there to want to exchange the emotions, but we have a good way of causing issues. Not always being the easiest people to deal with. Now, it's also, it's an exchange. It's an offering to share an emotional feeling. It's not just all intellect. And I don't need to always be poking a hole in people's their theories, their worldviews. I tend to do that quickly, too quickly. Someone's speaking to me, they're giving me their opinion, and how do I deflate a good conversation? Is I say, well, you're wrong right there. I do the Socratic method on people. Naturally, I don't know why I do that. I mean, I would assume Socrates would have a hard time making friends with people because he was always poking a hole in everybody's ideas. Maybe that's why he died the way he did. Depending on the culture you grow up in, the place you grow up in, you will be exposed to things that others don't know about. And when you first start sometimes when you first start explaining your views, your opinions, your experiences, and your life's wisdom, before you can even paint the picture, you get shot down. You're like, well, if you would have given me 10 more minutes, you'd see how what I'm trying to say makes sense. I probably do that to other people too often. I think I know what they're going to say. I'm predicting what they're going to say. And who knows how many times I was wrong. So this is just me doing a brain dump off of this 2 of Cups. Something else that comes to mind is going to therapy, which I've been looking at. Maybe I need to go and talk to a therapist. I was looking, is there some Jungian analysts around? I would like to go talk to a, more like a psychoanalyst or a depth psychologist. But, it's pricey in there. Where I live, it's hard to find them. But, you know, I see the two people and I think of transference right here. There's a transference happening, which is a psychological term of where you share each other, you empathize with one another, you know, and really in a good therapy session, people should be able to sort of mirror each other's experiences and understand and also get into a process where working together is stronger than working alone. And here I am working by myself. But this is a step, you know, this is a step. It's just not the final step. And I can admit that. I know a lot of times that card is about romance. So I should also look at that in terms of my wife and being more open-hearted and having that big heart with all kinds of people who I already love and care about. The center card I see as my personality. Why it's right there, I'm not exactly sure. But it's about knowing myself and knowing who I am. Don't put myself, I think I shouldn't put myself into a setting just because, hey, you know, I need to get back into some organizations and back into some tradition, and then I go and put myself in a place that's not good for me. That's just going to be more trauma, right? Like, wow, that was a bad idea. I do have a unique personality. It's not the easiest. So I need to take some care to actually really work on it. This is maybe one of the most important messages I've gotten out of the whole thing. Is just thinking about how do I start taking real steps to becoming more open again and being able to exchange emotions with people out there in the world that I don't even know yet. That's a difficult thing. And I know I don't refer to, I know I don't really refer to Kabbalah or Kabbalah, depending on how you like to say it. I'm still kind of working on it. I don't have a lot of confidence in that part of my tarot card reading. I do know there's Kabbalistic correspondences with these, but in these two cards, I recognize some of the astrology. This one is definitely Venus and Cancer. This one is it's Leo. I want to say it's Jupiter and Leo. Yeah, it's like that big victory celebration. So I think of a lot of fortune. And earlier when we talked about Leo, we talked about the big heart. But that card feels like a good omen to me. You know, there's a celebration there. There's a victory. And I think that's about all I can really say. It kind of was like that last time when I had the Four of Pentacles. I thought, well, that's a good outcome. I can definitely see there's a positive outcome. I have had this many times in these drawings where the final card, I'm like, well, that seems like a really good outcome. Is it an outcome though, or is this another step? Is this an attitude that I need to have? Do I need to embody that Six of Wands some way? You know, I see the Queen of Swords looking over at this card and she's watching it. It's almost like she's on her throne endorsing it and saying that it's good. She says, look at these people. They're enjoying their victory. And she's there to watch. She's not really in the mix, you know? And sometimes I think, man, if I could just be a better observer when I'm in crowds and public places and when I'm around a whole bunch of people, a better listener, being receptive. Sure, I have my sort of discernment that can cut really sharp, but I don't need to always be using it. I can just observe a little bit and allow people to enjoy life the way that they do. Okay, so this is long. Thanks again. Tomorrow we get to find out what our lower trigram is, our inner trigram, and I'm very excited about that. I already know what it's going to be, actually, but I won't say that. We will count these up tomorrow and announce it then. But you can do the math in your head. It's not too difficult. All right, have a good night.